can't escape pain. Pain is part of the balance of life. I spent a long time trying to figure out how to escape pain. What I really wanted was to escape suffering, and the understanding that we can all eventually come to is that pain does not have to mean suffering. It can mean suffering. We can interpret it that way, but there are different kinds of pains, and we can categorize it as good pain and bad pain, but that creates other problems with the labeling. So if we just understand how pain works, what pain is, what purpose does it serve, then we can get through this physical life without suffering, because we no longer interpret pain to be suffering, but the pains we go through change. We go through different kinds of pains. So I'll stop blabbing and let's share this. Okay. The idea is, okay, we all know the yin-yang, and there's also the idea that the pendulum must swing. This physical world is a world of duality. Balance has to be sustained always. There is nothing that happens where it doesn't have a reaction. There is no action without reaction. The world of duality cannot be a world of duality if we only experience one side of it. If anyone ever figured out how to experience a life of no pain, so pleasure only, then they could not be in the world of duality, because then they have broken the balance, which just isn't possible. The pendulum must swing. So over here we have a very basic diagram. Not much of a diagram, but the idea is there are two ways we can live our lives. We can live with induced pain and reactive pleasure, or induced pleasure and reactive pain. Again, we can label these as good and bad, but I'm going to try to avoid the labeling because it's a personal preference and it's a bit of a spectrum as well. If you live with induced pain, it doesn't mean you only self-induce pain, because, well, it'll probably make more sense if I look at this and look at our different options. These are on the absolute extreme ends of the spectrum. Let's say I chose option 1 and I'm inducing pain, for example, exercise. There's other examples: studying, going to work, waking up at 6 a.m. and going to bed early at, let's say, 9. Eating healthy. And then, so this is the action, this is the reaction. When you induce pain, you stack pleasure. The pain is immediate. So I should label this immediate action. The pain is immediate and very short-lived, and it's kind of like a spike. And then we have the stacking pleasure, which is the lasting reaction. The reaction does not last infinitely, but it lasts much longer, and we can continue stacking these immediate actions of pain, and by doing so we continually stack our lasting pleasure. But it's not pleasure in the sense of a dopamine hit, it's pleasure in the sense of contentment, a lack of stress. It's relief. It's the feeling that you get when you get a dopamine hit, but it's lasting and it doesn't feel like a spike. That's just your default mode, because dopamine is a mask for stress. That's all it's doing. And this is you're inducing the pain and relieving yourself of the stress over time. Now, the other option is inducing pleasure. Very simple example is sugar, and by doing that we stack pain. Other examples is smoking. Pretty much anything you can think of that is addictive is here, because we induce pleasure. Self-induced pleasure is what addictive behavior is, and it's dopamine. Self-induced pleasure always comes from dopamine. There is no pleasure that we can self-induce outside of dopamine. And we do that to mask stress. So the more stressed we are, the more we turn to our vices, and the more we do that, the more we stack stress on top of that. So let's say I was already stressed about work, and now I start eating sugar to distract myself. Well, now I'm stressed about work, and I'm stressed about being unhealthy, and now maybe my joints start hurting, maybe I have a poor sleep, and then that stacks on, and then the next day makes it worse, and then it's just a spiral. Now let's take a look at how this looks physically. So first we're going to look at induced pain, reactive pleasure. My favorite little diagram. This is the dopamine spikes, the highs, the lows, or it's the pain spikes, the highs, the lows. The wave looks exactly the same, whether you live in this frame of existence, whether you choose to do self-induced pain or whether you choose to live in this kind of life where it's self-induced pleasure. The wave looks exactly the same. You have ups and downs. The only difference is whether your ups and downs are creating a upward trend or a downward trend. So if we're talking about induced pain, what that looks like is here's my self-induced pain. So maybe I can I'm not sure if this will work. Let's take a look. Okay, cool. So let's say the day starts right there. We start at 0. We wake up. The first thing we do is self-induced pain. Boom. Then there's a swing, because every time you experience pain, you get a relief, and you don't just go back to baseline, you go higher than baseline. But then you self-induce some more pain, and then you get an upward swing, you self-induce more pain. You get these ups and downs, but as you go along, you're on an upward trend. Now, this isn't a hard rule, but the smaller the ups and downs, the smaller the upward trend is. So if I zoom out and look at this over a longer scale, let's say I had ups and downs at this level, so that's like 0.4. Okay, so we might have an upward trend like this. But if I had ups and downs like this, which means I'm putting myself through more pain, which means I'm training harder, I'm being more strict on my diet, I'm working harder, I'm doing a side hustle after work, those kinds of things, then my upward trend is even higher because I'm relieving myself of more of my problems. But there is diminishing returns, I think, which is that if I try to do too much, if I think I have to do everything and I start doing this, whoop, then I start, well, so many variables come into it. If I'm sacrificing sleep, if I'm up trying to work at night and I'm not eating, if I'm not cooking for myself and I'm instead getting takeout because I'm so concerned about money, these things all start conflicting with each other. But we're going to keep it very simple. We understand that, let's say, all aspects of our lives, every aspect of my life, my health, so my exercise, my diet, my work life, my hobbies, my social circle, all of them, I put in effort, I put in some sort of self-induced pain. So maybe I reach out to a friend to check up on them. I put in some extra effort. And so yes, the degree to which we put in the effort is the degree to which we go up or down. Now, we probably don't need to look at this, but it's the exact same on the other side. Induced pleasure. So, exact same thing. The only difference is we start the day. We start the day And instead of starting off on a low, we start off on a high. We induce pleasure. Then we get a low, then we get a high. We eat some more sugar. We drink some Red Bull. So what happens? Exact same thing on the opposite side, of course. Downtrending. And this is our baseline. So we wake up the next day feeling a little bit worse. So now we've woken up at let's say -1, why not? And then we continue on this downtrend and we start the day at -2 eventually, and then -3, and we keep going down and down and down until we feel like absolute shit. But guess what? You can do the exact same thing. You can turn this around and slowly increase your baseline. What's a nice uptrending life? The point of this is that pain is not evil. Pain is not something to be avoided. Pain is not suffering. When you induce pain and you're living this life, remember, anything above 0, I guess I should have specified that. Anything above 0 means you feel good, means you are not suffering, which means, let's make it relatable. So, well, let's keep it on an upward trend. Don't want to touch that. We want to go to... Okay, well, we want to start on a low, which means we're self-inducing, and we also want to bring it back down to 0. Now let's say we start doing this, we start putting ourselves through some pains. At first, you can see, okay, on my first day, this is suffering. I interpret it as suffering. It feels like absolute shit, and that's because I'm stressed because of all my past, I've got inertia from all the stupid things I've been doing. I've been eating too much, I've been not exercising, all that stuff. So, you may still experience what you perceive to be suffering at the start, and then, you hit your up, you go down again, and then your downs keep feeling like you're suffering. You suffer this day, this day, this day, this day. You kind of suffer this day, but then eventually even your lows feel good. Even your lows feel good. What's the other option? The other option is that your highs feel good on the first day and the second day. Your highs feel good, feels good, feels good. You're eating sugar and you're doing whatever. Then eventually your highs, even on your highs, you feel shit. You need a high just to try to reach baseline, but you can't even reach baseline because you're so deep in the dopamine chasing, I need pleasure, I need to stop suffering, I need to avoid pain. The more you try to avoid pain, the more you end up going down this spiral. Pain is not evil. Attempting to avoid pain is the most painful thing. There is no existence that is more painful than the one in which you try to avoid pain. Don't avoid pain, seek it, because it will relieve you. And you will have an amazing life. Look at you up here. Even your lowest low. Let's say you have an absolute shit day. Where's the, this one? Nope. Amplitude, of course. An absolute shit day. You hit this huge low. But guess what? You're so high, that's not even that big a deal. Because you got so much other things going on in your life. You got the fittest body in the world. No, sorry. You love your body. You love the hobbies that you do on a daily basis. You love your family and friends and they love you. Everything at this point is going well because you're going well. Because you're going through pain. And you're not trying to avoid pain. And by going through pain, you are literally refining yourself and you're refining your experience just like a piece of, I don't know, gold. I'm not a blacksmith. You're refining yourself into the most polished, shiny piece of pure version of yourself. You're becoming the most pure version of yourself. And the more you become yourself, the more you align with your real self, better you feel, the better your experience, but the better life is. So, hopefully it's clear now why pain is not evil. Pain is not to be avoided. Pain is in fact an amazing tool in this world of duality. If you want to escape pain, you have two options. One, think you can escape pain in this dual world and go down the rabbit hole of suffering, just like shown on that graph. Option two, leave the dual world. There is no third option. There is no actual way to escape suffering. Sorry, there is no way to escape pain. You can escape suffering by going actively into pain and turning your life into the most pure version of yourself that it's meant to be. You will have an amazing life. Pain is not evil. How we interpret it can make it seem evil and will make our experience that way. But see it for what it is. See the full picture. This is the full picture. This is the full picture. Option 1, option 2. Make your choice. Do you want to induce pain and stack pleasure, or do you want to induce pleasure and stack pain? Literally your choice. There is no good and bad here. How do you want to live your life?